All right, welcome everybody to another episode of AI Security Ops with Black Hills Information Security. I have my normal illustrious crew here on the show. We have Bronwen Aker up to my diagonal in the Brady Bunch squares. I have Brian Fehrman, and I have Derek Banks. And of course, there's me, Joff. We are going to talk about an interesting experience that we had recently. But before we get to that, I would be remiss if I didn't say this episode is brought to you by Black Hills Information Security. We perform artificial intelligence technology assessments. If you are interested in having us look at your local implementation, local model deployments, your own architecture of AI that you're implementing in your organization, please feel free to reach out to us. The topic for today is deepfakes and fraudulent interviews in remote hiring. Wow. So
it's oddly specific.
It is oddly specific. And the reason, I'll just be honest, the reason that we bring this up is several people on the panel here were involved in interviewing candidates recently for a new position at Black Hills Information Security, and we ran headlong into actual use of deepfake and artificial intelligence technology during the interviews, and we were quite surprised, I think. But then we had that duh moment. Of course, this is happening, but we didn't really expect it to just be right there in our face the minute we were interviewing for a position. And we also see this incidence of a tremendous volume of resumes coming in for job opportunities. Now, that may just be the sign of the times. I don't know, but the quality or perceived quality associated with that volume was also fairly high, indicating what I think was a lot of generated content. So let's break it down. First of all, what do we mean by deep fake interviews? I'm going to pitch this to Brian Fehrman. What do we mean, Brian Fehrman?
Sure. So let's think about, first let's talk about traditional interviews, right? When you sit in a traditional interview where someone comes in person, you sit down, you see the person there. Like, you know that they are a person. Their voice is their voice. Their answers are coming from within them. Could they be lying? Sure. But nonetheless, you've at least got that to go off of, right? Nowadays, though, when we're talking about remote candidates, we don't even have that luxury to know that. And so when we're talking about deepfake interviews, what we mean is that you can potentially get people on a video call for an interview, and you don't know, is their voice, is that their actual voice, or are they using text-to-speech? Are their answers coming from them, or are they just reading off of AI from screen, or having the AI go directly text-to-speech? And finally, you don't even know that what you're seeing is the real person. It very well could be a generated image, and that's the problem that we are dealing with now. Like, it's not a problem that's in the future. It is a problem right now.
Yeah, so it was fascinating that I was on the interview panel for one of these positions, and one of our interviewers actually asked the candidate to please look away from the screen when they answered a question, and the candidate refused to do so, and in fact said that they were uncomfortable with doing that. And of course, for us as the people trying to interview a potential candidate, that's a huge red flag, right? It's like, wait a minute, so we also did get a distinct impression of generated, modulated voices in some of the interviews that we were conducting, as if there was some real time translation, either language translation or just real time speech generation occurring. it actually blew us away. We didn't think that this was as real as it really was at the time. Okay. So we're living in a world where we've got remote workers, and we have remote workers that have the ability to tap into artificial intelligence technology, and clearly they will attempt to use it when they're in an interview situation. So how do we handle this, right? How do we spot the fake? How do we manage this situation? I suppose let's go to spot the fake first. Let's talk around that a little bit. So I don't know. Bronwen, let me get your thoughts on that. I mean, if you think you're in that situation, what are some of the techniques that we can use to sort of spot the activity?
Aside from doing a forensic analysis of the video coming in, usually there are tells that video being generated is Gen AI, and usually it has to do with the lighting, the shading, the number of fingers on the hands, but they've gotten a lot better about that sort of thing. The delays, sometimes there will be, if you've ever seen the Matrix movies, there'll be a glitch in the Matrix where the video will hiccup, and sometimes that can be written off to an unstable internet connection, but not always. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. And then, of course, anything where you've got objects that wind up merging into each other. So I know right now there's a very popular video going around that supposedly someone's yard camera, and it shows a bunch of bunnies that are bouncing on a trampoline. Well, the tell for that one is at one point two bunnies jump through each other. So that kind of thing is how you can often tell that this is a Gen AI. The problem is the generation of realistic video is accelerating so fast. And I expect that within a year or two, it will be almost impossible to eyeball it, and it will require some sort of analysis to be able to tell whether it's Gen AI. That, or of course, if you look at the commercial products that are available, and there are more and more. Adobe is coming out with tools that you can use in a browser to generate avatars, and you throw a little money at them, and now you can do things in near real time. Other tools out there are available as well, and the price points are very accessible. Once you see the avatars that they have and you become familiar with them, those become pretty easy to recognize too. So one of the things that we observed in our experience was scanning of the eyeballs that the individual appeared to be reading, and a desynchronization between the audio and what was actually coming out of his mouth. So it appeared, there was one very obvious tell in one of the instances. It appeared that the person was not only reading and using technology to supplement their answers, but perhaps at the same time using real-time language translation as well to get that answer across to us, hence the sort of mouth desynchronization effect. And then we're just guessing, frankly. Maybe it was completely generated. It's hard to tell, but there were definitely glitches in the Matrix, as you say. There were artifacts there that were not too difficult to pick up. I think one of our defenses was the right thing to do. As uncomfortable as this was for the candidate, turn away from the screen. We want you to turn away from the screen and answer the question. They wouldn't do it. The other thing that was a common theme in many of these interviews that were coming across our desk was the excuse of poor internet, or just poor internet as general issue, and the candidate sort of just making silly excuses about it. Okay.
in today's day and age, if you have candidates that were primarily applying from the mainland United States, which these in this particular case were, I don't think poor internet is an excuse that can be used. Okay, bunny ears. Yeah, let's put the bunny ears on that. Now, come on, you can, except for people that live way out in the desert somewhere that actually aren't attached. But I don't buy it, right? You can turn off your camera, you can stream audio only. There are ways to get enough bytes through to have a decent conversation in a chat medium of some sort. So I don't know. Derek, I know you've got some things to say about this. Deep fakes is one of those things that Derek loves to talk about.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't ask me about the forensic part. I recently put together, some from forensic stuff looking at audio deep fakes, and I'm going to beg to differ that forensically it's going to be easy to spot deep fakes. It is not from audio, and definitely not like for video. I don't think so either, especially moving forward into the future. Now audio, like I've done a lot of computer forensics, and I learned a whole lot about what I didn't know about when it became to audio forensics, trying to put together a lab for spotting an audio deep fake. So on the fly, I don't know why it would make a candidate uneasy to like turn away from the camera to like prove that they're who they say they are, right? Like that's kind of weird to me, other than, you're going to get busted, right? But some of the things that I heard from y'all kind of amazed me. Out of 450 resumes that we got, you said that 97% of them were probably malicious and, or a fake person. And that like blows my mind because, we hear that the tech job market is oversaturated, but we didn't really see that yet. And if we're getting that kind of volume, oh, wow. I mean, other companies like today is the worst the technology is going to be, right? Like, like Bronwen was saying, in a couple of years, like, I don't know. You're going to have to interview in person. You're not going to be able to believe anything that you see. I mean, I already don't believe anything I see, right? Despite the 4 fingers or crossing bunnies or whatever. Like,
I think that's where we're going.
So good that it's almost impossible to tell. And then you look like forensically. I mean, humans can still get that uncanny valley of that's a little off, but that's going to go away. Like
and related to this is the remote worker paradigm of remote workers that are actually applying for trying to get acceptance to multiple jobs and gaming the system. Right?
Yeah, I think my company, if you're going to get hired, you got to come out and meet me in person and go to lunch.
I think that's actually going to have to be.
That's where I'd be right now.
Yeah, I really do.
I mean, I'm just surprised at the volume again. Like we have, because even last year when we were hiring for a similar role, like that was not our experience. I'm not saying that there weren't any fake ones, but I sat on a number of interviews and they seemed like real people to me. The fact that it picked up that quick, wow.
I will say that as part of this process that we went through recently, we did take one measure to try to screen out some of the initial automated AI responses. And if I remember that measure correctly, we put the phrase something like monkey bananas in a tree or similar to that in white text inside the HTML. That was posted for the job requisition, and anybody who any AI that responded to that phrase, we just immediately dumped and screened it out. Right,
the no banana clause, I think.
Yeah,
there's a minus 1,000 points in the scoring metric for banana.
But clearly, our defenses were inadequate with what we have experienced so far. So this is the world we live in now. So. Where do we go from here? I mean, there's this almost a rhetorical question in our notes. Will deep fake interviews get more sophisticated? Yes.
Yeah. without a doubt. And one of the measures that we did toss in, which, I mean, obviously this isn't going to work forever, but is checking phone numbers. And that's how, so that 450 resumes determining that like around 95 to 97% of them are likely fraudulent comes from that, where someone put together a script that would pull out the phone numbers from the resumes and then use the service to check who is the carrier of these cell phone numbers. It turned out that like 95, 97% of them, roughly around there, were all VoIP. Which I'm not saying that that's inherently malicious. Sure, some people have VoIP landlines, but that's awfully suspicious, right? I mean, most people, especially US, especially most people, especially US based, you're going to have a cell phone, right? And so it should come up, Verizon or whoever your carrier is. And so right there, just boom, lop those off. And the ones that we had issues with. So we did interviews with 4 people. One of them we're pretty sure was an actual genuine down to earth human being. The other 3 were pretty sure fraudulent. We got one.
Wow.
That one person out of the 4. Yeah, that one person out of the
people, they made it through our screening process, right? Like
to the interview, before we realized that this was going to be a problem. The one guy who was almost certainly a real human being, his phone number tied to a wireless carrier. The other 3 were all VoIP or like just didn't work. So
yeah, maybe it was the AI trying to get a job.
Yeah.
Well, so there's 2 things we didn't talk about. One would be like watermarking, right? Like in some situations, like you could find a media's provenance through some kind of watermarking. You mentioned Adobe. I think they've got like a watermarking type of thing for media content that you can basically, say this media is legit. So that's one thing. Like if your company, like if you're in a situation where you like have to verify media. And the other thing is, I think where we're going to get to is that, I mean, you're going to treat it like unsanitized inputs from a web app, right? It is basically an attack surface, zero trust media policy. When media comes in, whatever that media is, it goes through some kind of, customized and, like, let's see if this is fake and like what we were doing, but more, right? Like, I think that's where we're going to end up having to be, is that zero trust media policy type thing.
Yeah, I think what we realized is that, first of all, we don't have a really nice professional HR department that does screening like this on a professional basis for us. For those people that are out there, if we have HR professionals that listen to the podcast, I'd be really interested in getting your feedback and commentary on this episode, because what we walked into was way more active, significant than we thought it would be. We thought we'd get some of it. We weren't completely naive, but we didn't know we were just wading into the deep end. We totally were waded into the deep end.
I would have been naive. I would expect it to have been a real person who was asking ChatGPT for answers to the questions. Like, that would have been my expectation. But it's that plus, I'm faking who I am.
And for what it's worth, just looking at all of the posts on LinkedIn, we are far from the Lone Ranger on this. A lot of other companies are running into the same exact problem. And of course, we've had on the news talking about where fake people actually got hired by legitimate cybersecurity companies or other companies that have the HR departments, that have the infrastructure internally, and they still got fooled. So we're just seeing the beginning. It's only going to get worse from here.
So the interesting and sad thing about some of this is, no offense intended to anybody when I say this, but when we have been penetration testing in the past and we have engaged in social engineering, I'll be honest, we often will target HR professionals. I mean, they tend to be a weak point. Now, given today's backdrop, this is an enormous threat, and it goes really deep and wide, because I do believe, I have already read, that there are nation state actors trying to get jobs inside of technology companies.
Oh, yeah, that's happened
in the
already.
West,
North
right?
Korea's
It's happening.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
So-
And well, even on the news, one of the stories we talked about was that other nation states are especially targeting students that are at universities where a lot of AI research is being done. So it's not just nation states targeting companies or even hitting it from the student level on up, because they want that data, they want that intellectual property.
Okay. So
That's it. We just got to shut the internet down. That's it.
Shut the internet down.
We're done here.
Back to summarizing our technical measures for defenses. So let's just sort of do a quick bulleted list. We already said a couple. We did seed the job requisition with some words that AI might pick up on that we could use to weed out some of the fake resumes coming in. We spoke about using automation and scripting to go through the actual phone numbers and tie them back to a provider and see if they were a legit phone provider or just a throwaway voice over IP number. I think that's a nice technique. We have thought about other techniques like out-of-band verification, actually calling the number on the file, doing some quick OSINT kind of tasks, things like LinkedIn and so forth. What other defensive measures could we think of in terms of building processes for employers to validate the candidate's legitimacy?
I would create training, like phishing training, but spot the deepfake training. Like, I mean, it's adjacent to that, like social engineering training. Just be aware this kind of stuff is happening, and tell, your employees, like I tell my children, if it comes from the internet, just assume that someone's trying to trick you. Like,
yeah, a default zero trust assumption.
Yeah, zero trust from things originating from unknown sources on the internet.
Yeah, I think
Anything else?
Another one to throw in there, kind of from a technological perspective, is one of the things we saw is everyone had a fake background, right? So I think one thing that might help is to ask candidates to pan their camera around the room, like remove the fake background, show us what you've got going on, because that's going to be harder to fake, like a panning around of a room to show it's a real room with real objects, the lighting looks real. I mean, some people might have a mess going on, but whatever.
I want to see your messy bookshelf.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that might be another good one to throw in.
Well, and we already talked about the glitches in the matrix and funky artifacting, and I can't help but wonder if at some point we're going to have AIs screening out applicants that have been generated by other AIs.
It's funny that you say that.
That's a good question.
I've tried to use AI to detect AI, and it's a lot harder than you would think it would be, especially if it's like, using the same or similar data sets. Like, that's just not how AI works, right? And so I'm not saying that there aren't AI models to detect deepfake stuff. There definitely are, but using AI to detect AI is sometimes problematic.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joff. I was say one more interesting thing I wanted to throw in before I forget too was like idioms or colloquialisms. I think caused some problems. I remember there was one when one of the people on from our side on one of the calls said something about getting out of Dodge, and the candidate didn't respond right away and had to basically ask to repeat, and then they repeated it, and it was almost like listening to a robot respond. It was like, aha, oh, that was a joke, I see.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. So idioms and colloquialisms things.
Should you ask your questions to the candidate in the form of a prompt injection?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So this is, especially in English, this is where I might have a distinct advantage, because Australian English is probably the most colloquial English that there is in the English collection of languages. But that actually may backfire, because then there'll be complete misunderstanding.
That's a little bit of supervised fine-tuning away. That's it.
Yeah, that's a bit more of a step. But actually, colloquialisms, not a bad idea, although all cultures are not created equal, and some colloquialisms even within the same country, don't necessarily carry the same meaning. So it's a tricky area that would have to be very, very carefully done. The other thing I kind of like as a defense is kind of the sort of spontaneous, off the cuff, maybe even off script kind of question, like not even technology related, right? Like, how's the weather where you are? Or maybe that's not a good example, but something that's completely off script and kind of tangential and sideways and quick, just to kind of look for the tells, right? Look for the lags, look for the translation, look for the reading, because when you give them stuff that's off script and spontaneous, it's going to take longer if they're going through a technology process to translate. So
you mean those weird, fuzzy, non-technical questions that HR people ask might actually have value in the modern world?
I do believe they do. And there's and here's the other thing: there's some HR professionals
traits.
Yeah, if there are HR professionals that listen to this episode, you're going to give us some feedback and probably tell us all of the egregious things that we said on this episode from an HR perspective. And okay, we're talking about the technology in our experience, and please, we didn't call out or identify any people here, but by all means, give us your feedback. I'd love to hear some of that, because these are real issues. They might be egregious violations at some level, but somehow we're going to have to solve this problem, right? Somehow we have to navigate this as a community. And, maybe ultimately the answer is you got to show up in a physical location and good old fashioned, like shake your hand and actually sit down in front of me. As difficult as that is these days, it may be the only way we get there from here.
Or, hey, now here's a thought. You know how for certain certifications you have to go and take a proctored exam? Maybe have a proctored interview where you have locations set up that have the video conferencing software set up and both parties.
A human monitor.
Yeah.
It's like a digital notary.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, I love that. Hey, we're gonna cut that out of the episode because that's like $1 million idea right there.
Okay, there's
check that out.
Yeah. You got to keep that. You got to keep that to yourself.
Bronwen is just starting herself a company right there. You heard it here live. Yeah, you heard it here live. Proctored interview, technology neutral. That's a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to close out this episode on. So do give us your feedback. Tell us what your experiences are. We live in a strange, wonderful world. And it's getting stranger by the day. But having said that, keep on prompting everybody. Good talking to you. We'll see you next time.